Hello, Austin. This is Dr. Love. You are listening to Lone Star Politics right here on KVRX. Today I'm very excited. I have my very first guest who is a politician. That's right, I actually got a politician to agree to come on the show and deal with some hardball questions. Now, Councilmember Spellman is somewhat of an anomaly, I would say, on the City Council. He has fought for transparency in government at a time when transparency could have potentially been rather dangerous to the political futures of important people working for the city of Austin. So I'm going to play a little clip for you right now of Councilmember Spellman at City Council to set the stage for you. In May of 2009, Nathaniel Sanders, an 18-year-old black male in Austin, was sleeping in the back of his car. Two Austin police patrol cars approached his car. What happened next is unknown, but the end result was that Officer Leonardo Quintana fired 5 shots and killed Nathaniel Sanders. It would be easier to know what happened had the officer turned on his monitor so we could have seen what exactly happened, but for some reason he did not, or there was a malfunction.
What you are watching right now is the dash camera of the second police officer who was there when 18-year-old Nathaniel Sanders was shot.
Will be outside 1018 to be on I Springdale.
Keep there.
P90 cleared.
So what's on your mess? Anything? Watch them. Just keep an eye on them for now.
City Council wanted to know what happened, and so they hired a firm called Keypoint and paid them $50,000 of taxpayer money to do an outside investigation and find out exactly what happened to Nathaniel Sanders and how it is that he ended up dead. The city asked that the report be released to the public, as much of the report as possible. They were very clear on that, since this was a taxpayer-funded report. When the report was released, there were pages and pages and pages redacted. The public was outraged. Councilmember Spellman, a staunch advocate for transparency in government, was not happy with this, and he let the legal counsel for Austin know. Interestingly, when the Keypoint scandal erupted, the the legal counsel of Austin, David Smith, quickly resigned. So here is Councilmember Spellman questioning the new legal counsel of the city of Austin about the Keypoint investigation cover-up.
And it seems to me that a lot of the things which you did redact were not evidentiary facts or substantive investigative information, and that the reason you redacted them could not have been these limited grounds. It must have been something else. And I think you alluded to something else a few minutes in your earlier presentation, but I want to be sure I understand what it was. Let me read you just a section of the redacted, part of the redacted sections. We believe the actions taken by Officer Quintana were well beyond merely careless or negligent. We believe his actions, based on his knowledge of the circumstances, his training, his experience, and his status as a field training officer, were reckless to the point that he needlessly endangered himself, his fellow officers, the suspects, and the onlookers. That was redacted. And it's not obvious to me what evidentiary facts or substantive investigative information from the file is contained in that statement that you redacted.
I'm not entirely sure how to respond specifically to your question, Council Member.
I'm your host, Dr. Love, and here we have an actual doctor of politics, Council Member Bill Spellman. Council Member Spellman, it's a real pleasure to have you here in the studio. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, Doctor. I appreciate it.
Now, I have to tell you, I was there at that meeting, and you really won me over when you were asking the questions that we in the audience wanted to ask, which was basically, why was this redacted? You know, why did you not release the whole report that the taxpayers paid for? That was just great. It's rare to see a politician with the cojones to go after the legal counsel and ask them the hard questions up there.
I'm glad you feel that way. It shocked me when I read that stuff in the redacted sections of the report. I thought, why on earth are they doing? Well, I know exactly why they're doing this. I want to know what it is they're going to tell us on camera about why they redacted it.
Can you speak closer to the mic?
Sure.
I'm sorry. Wonderful. Now, before we get started into policy issues, I wanted to ask you, what brought you into public service, and you know, what is your aspiration?
Well, there's a long story, a short story. Let me give you the short version of the long story. I was an international relations major at UCLA, and to put myself through school, I got a job working with the mayor of the city of Los Angeles. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I knew Tom Bradley slightly. I got a job in his office, and there was one day when I was in a geography class, when they were talking about how to cut up a channel so that it's equitably distributed between the two countries who own both sides of it. And then that afternoon I went into the mayor's office, and we were talking about how to allocate slots among different 501c3s for the summer youth employment program. And I realized that really we were talking about the same issue, but I was a lot more interested in how we allocate slots than I was about how to cut the channel in half. And I realized I was just much more interested in the kind of tangible stuff that we do in the mayor's office in Los Angeles, and then I was just more interested in what happened in cities, because I could see the people we're helping, and I could see the results of what I was doing.
What would you say has been your greatest accomplishment thus far serving on Austin City Council?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure I've accomplished a whole heck of a lot, but as a group, we've, I think, done a very good job of sorting out a wide variety of issues, and we're actually just starting now to come to grips with what I think is going to be one of the biggest issues of the next few years, something we're going to spend a lot of time talking about. The vast majority of Austinites would like this city to be relatively compact. They like the idea of not sprawling out like Denver, Los Angeles. So many big cities have been sprawling out in all directions, which creates an enormous number of urban problems, and it cranks up all of our infrastructure costs, traffic congestion gets worse, and so on. So in principle, people really want a fairly compact city. However, when you start talking about their own neighborhood, people say, well, but I like my neighborhood just exactly the way it is, and if another 1 million people are going to be moving into town, maybe they should move somewhere else. And I think over the next 10 years, we're going to have to work out, well, how do we square this circle? How can we get a compact city without screwing up people's neighborhoods' quality of life? How can we get a little bit more density without getting in the way of what it is that we really like about the city of Austin the way it is right now?
More with Councilmember Spellman when we return.